Race 7 of the BMW IBSF four-man bobsleigh World Cup. We're in Innsbruck in Austria, above the double Olympic city at the village of Igls, on the ice track that was used for the 1976 Winter Games. Welcome back to Innsbruck, everybody. The final race of the four-man World Cup season in Europe. Martin Avon and John Morgan with a fascinating final run coming up.
Well, Rico Peter and team, the reckless driver who's bronze medal in the World Championships on this track last year, had the 15th draw and surprised everybody by coming down in the bronze medal position. But boy, there's a lot of people close by to that bronze medal position. Second place, even a bigger surprise, Steve Holcomb and team. Holcomb's finally starting to get some decent start times. And with Holcomb with a start time, he's one of the best in the world. 10th best start. He came down on the 11th draw, and he surprised everybody because he's in second place. And he's, not far out of the lead. Oscars Melbardis, though, this guy won the World Championships last year on this track. This team's won 3 straight years. The team's intact. They are awesome athletes, and Melbardis, who's still only 80% out of the back surgery this summer, he's the leader. He was also the first man down in the competition, so he had a big advantage.
Well, Holcomb in second place, a decade on from his last win on this track, which is in January 2007. 700s first to second, but look at this, down to Francesco Frugic and beyond. Ridiculous how tight this is. Benny Meyer, Jan Verber, Rudy Rinaldi. I mean, the 100th, 100th, 200th, 100th, all the way down this order, there's going to be a very tight race. And frankly, anybody now, the top half dozen, could easily be in the medals.
The guy who's won 3 of the last 4 World Cup four-man races, Johannes Lachter, disqualified first run.
That is the big story now.
Hot runners.
Were they just in a box in a nice warm van and they just
not
didn't
very
pay
cold.
attention?
Not very cold here today.
No.
They measure them about, I think, 10 minutes before they come to the start line and DQ'd.
Yeah. So we only had 31 sleds in the first heat in the end. 11 don't start. There's Francesco Frugic, Torsten Margis on the left. Won again in the two-man yesterday, their 4th win of the season. And after 2 weeks being beaten into second place, he needed that, Rennie Spies was saying. And Oscars Melbardis, you just saw our race leader. Ice -3, no, it's 4-5 below at the start of the heat. Air temperature was hovering around 0. I think it might be around that still at the moment, but the ice is struggling to stand up to the pounding it's getting from these four-man sleds. We had 31 down in the first heat, 20 to go in the second. The fastest 20 down to the leader after the first heat, who goes last, and both runs count. So Dominik Dvorak of the Czech Republic will be first on the ice. Oscars Melbardis will go 20th. He'll have the least to work with on the track.
Well, Dvorak, good finish yesterday. 7th place in the two-man, his personal best ever. Never been in the top 10 before. He beat out Justin Olsen's team by 1/100th of a second to start the second run. And Olsen did pretty good yesterday too. 4th in the two-man competition, just 200ths out of his first medal ever as a driver.
Dominik Dvorak of the Czech Republic hasn't yet completed a full World Cup season, very much in the early part of his career, but producing some sparkling results.
Starts, he's a 10-8 100-meter guy in the front seat, and he's new. Had a pretty good season, especially that finish yesterday. 49.8 speed. Keep your eyes on that. The velocity here, the track is so flat up top. The start is one thing. How you get in the sled around those first 2 curves, that is another. And it's still really flat here. Doesn't start to drop off till we get to this Kreisel curve right here. 102.6.
That is 63.8 miles an hour. 64.3.
Pivotal part of the track. That happens to half the sled to the field, which he just did.
Very few on the left.
Very few people get out of there clean. Holcomb was one of them. Rico Peter the other, and they're in the second, third positions. Down 51.38. Okay, he's
a little
faster
quicker than his first heat, 51.46.
Well, he's first man down. He's got the better ice to work with.
I'm not sure in the 15 minutes after the end of the first heat, before the start of the pilot sleds here, they actually had much time for track prep. The first heat went on a long way.
There's a lot of problems in the braking stretches. In fact, Stolnev, the Russian sled who comes up later, he crashed after the timing eye into the finish curve, and he said one of his guys on the team had to be replaced. This curve 8, you do not want to dive into curve 8 and have to climb the wall there, and then you're going to make a mistake down here in curve 9.
The ice dropping out of the sled. Why is there ice dropping out of the sled halfway down the run? Needed to be cleaned out after the first heat. 19th after the first heat, Brad Hall from Great Britain, Sam Blanchet, Bruce Tasker and Gregory Cackett. And Brad Hall had a good first run. Good starting crew. First time this foursome have pushed together.
Started 28th in the field, so he had nothing to work with for a track.
5:07 getaway in the first heat, 10th fastest in the field. This is their second push together this season.
He's got that Bruce Tasker. Pushing with him.
Oh!
Getting down, 5.6, great. 50.3 speed.
They had 51 kilometers an hour in the first heat through that. It was the fastest 80-meter velocity of any of the sleds.
So that 13 should go out to 20. He's got to keep it straight. Watch the exit here. Right here. Another one, 6 here. Not bad. 13 to 13 is not a good sign, though. He should have got out 13 to 15, accelerating away.
63.9 kilometers an hour. Brand new Singer 4-man sled for both British drivers and a big skid. Worse than in the first heat, and he had a big problem off 9 in heat 1.
It's going to get clean. Oh, he's still flying, though.
Well, still trying to learn the nuances of this sled. First race ever for these Singers. 51.33. The first one was a 51.38, so a whisker quicker. Despite that big skid from 9 into 10. Sam Blanchet there standing up at 2, struggled to get his legs around the little driver's seat as they loaded. Bruce Tasker at 3 gets out to hold on to the sled as well.
Well, this is curve 9. It's a nemesis to everybody. So nobody's come through here clean yet, and that's a big hit. Double hit 3 times and a skid into 10, and he didn't like it. But he's driving a brand new sled.
Yep. Great Britain lead. Great Britain will lead after this run because Brad Hall has just preceded his teammate Lamin Dean on the ice. Lamin Dean in last year's 4-man World Championships contending for a medal, hung it out in the second heat, crashed, and as a result failed to finish in the race.
That was a shock. We thought he was definitely going to, with the position he was in, start time that he had, we thought he was going to medal. I'm surprised they got outstarted by their teammates. 5:09 in the first run, and their teammates did a pretty good job second run, so they needed an 06. 14. Wow. 49.6. Really, just can't figure these guys out. I mean, this is the same team that they had together intact at the Sochi Olympics.
Yeah, but that was 2, 3, 4 years ago, and John Baines in his first race back from injury this weekend.
He's pretty happy to be back. He said he was sick of watching it with his kids on the couch.
Just means that the team haven't pushed together all season long.
1,500s down. This is where he crashed. Last year, the World Championships, and the second heat in a row, he comes off there hard.
Both British sleds coming very late off corner 9 with late pressure into the wall on the opposite side.
Now the question is, he might fall 2 places. He's holding on.
Only just going to be in front, no, behind Dominic Dvorak, so he will finish no worse than 20th, but...
Don't think that there's not a race within a race amongst the British team right there. Brad Hall with that injury in Whistler opens the season. He's starting to make his comeback, and he wants to emerge the World Championships here in a couple weeks as the British #1 sled going into the Olympic season, and he might do it.
Misha McNeil there in the hat, helping the boys at the bottom.
Okay,
again, late pressure in 9.
And then they come off and they just crush the wall here on the right side of our screen. There's not a lot of ice left over there. Boy, there's a lot of ice chips we saw in the first heat that they swept up, but by the time the good sleds come down, it's going to be a lot of ice chips.
Full of ice as well. Next up for Switzerland, Clemens Brascher made his World Cup debut in the first heat, and a really nice drive it was. 23rd start draw was always going to be very difficult. On the right-hand side of your picture in the cap, Christoph Langen, coaching the Swiss juniors. That's going to make you have a good start, isn't it? Him yelling at you from behind.
You want to get as far away from him as you can. In, down, quickly. They didn't have a very good load in the first heat. There's that same, not as bad an issue as they had in the first heat.
Struggling to get in though, wasn't he?
5:09, and he had some good lines coming down the track. Very impressed. He started late too. He started 23rd. 700ths lead, so that should go out to 8 or 9 here if he's got the good lines up top.
Tidies up the little slide.
So,
of course, he gets his start because there's no Bert Hefty this weekend.
And how hard is he going to hit the wall here coming out of 9?
No, great line, and exactly what he did in the first heat. Neat and tidy all the way down. He's going to take the lead at the moment.
16 pulling away.
Oh,
big skid. Watch out
Hold
there.
on.
Oh, sled almost reversed, flipped into the finish curve.
And still he had
51-19.
Takes the lead from Brad Hall.
1200's better. Look at Christoph Langen. Something to be happy about, Christoph.
Hey, listen, that's his World Cup debut in a field of 32 sleds, and he'll be no worse than 16th.
That's a good run for him.
Hello.
They go into the World Championships. They told me they're also going into the World Championships. So,
but you know what? I don't think Bert Hefty would have finished 16th in this field.
Are very organized, as most Swiss are.
Well, and also great lines.
Now watch this though. Look at the sled. Look at the sled. Whoa! Look at the back end. That's tough, and it's airborne. Look at his free fall right there. And he's still not off this curve. He gets way high on the curve. Look how higher compared to the other runner marks he is there. Look at the sled. It almost reversed, flipped into the finish curve.
Was he zigging when he should have been zagging? I think he was. First 4 of our 20 sleds down, second heat of the 4-man Bobsleigh World Cup in Innsbruck in Austria. Martin Haven and John Morgan watching the action as Yoon Jong-won of Korea, who lies 17th in the World Cup rankings, is at the line. Best result, 5th in Lake Placid. Worst result, didn't even make the cut in St. Moritz.
A little perplexing. 5:09, first run. Good, efficient load into the sled, 5:10. Speed, velocity, third best, 49.7. That's not bad.
Well, he's behind the rookie, Clemens Brescia, who has never started the World Cup race in his career. Korea. Third place for Yoon Jong-won on the split times.
Going our next World Cup, not the World Championships, the final World Cup will be in Pyeongchang, Korea, March 17th, 18th weekend.
Middle of March. It's that US Open sort of
nice
time of the year, isn't it?
Yeah. Nice lines, but he's second. It's close. 600ths, I don't know. This will be a big scalp for the Swiss.
He can get in front.
Oh, it's tied.
He does.
Our
it's
first
tied.
tie.
There you go.
First tie of the day.
8 in the leaders box. Eric Allard, the coach, blows out with his cheeks.
Give him some credit. He found some lines on the bottom part of the track. Remember, Bracker from Switzerland almost tipped over in the last 2 curves. Juan was smooth and took a 600 red numbers, turned it into at least even. So he did not lose his placing. Okay, let's look at how they get in these 4-man sleds into these little bathtubs. Look at the number 2 guy and watch him pull his visor down as he brings his hands down. Number 3 is a little late coming in. 4 push bars come in. Choreography on ice. Beautiful pictures.
A year out of the games, Korea has had 1 medal this year in bobsledding, which is more than Chris Spring has managed, I'm afraid. He's having a tough time. Yoon Jong-won of Korea is our race leader. First, final 4-man race of the European season. Canada's Chris Spring needs a bit of redemption. Teammate Justin Cripps had a big result with a 5th place finish in yesterday's 2-man race.
Ooh, the sled's out of the grooves. So that's Neville Wright back there. You saw the sled go sideways. That means he picked it up. And we'll see how that affects him. 5:13 start, 3rd best velocity. And they had a 5:10 in the first run. So let's see how much that velocity hurts him down here. Red
6th in Whistler, bronze in Lake Placid, and then arrived in Europe 21st in Winterberg.
Boy, 1200's already down. And he only had 300s back a 1 on the start. Now it's 11. He's bringing it back. So he stopped the bleeding and a good exit here into 8. 9, he can't crush the wall. He's going to need a good line. Saw a lot of ice. I don't know if that's going to help.
1100's back on the splits. Is he going to get any closer? Well, don't forget, one nearly crashed down here.
He's going to lose 2 spots because there's a tie down here.
Swiss, wasn't it? Yeah. 700's behind, so he loses 2 spots.
He goes 100th better, but boy, if they show us that start replay, you'll see the sled getting picked up. And that can't help. That energy
going the wrong
all
way.
Goes into the nose.
Well, it's not going forward. If you're lifting the sled up, you're not pushing it forward. And they know that, and it's, you know, one of those things that happens.
It's technique. It's techniques.
And when you're in a tough place, those things happen.
Look at that. Look at the sled. He's running. Now it's out of the grooves there. They could have been, look at, he has to run out of the grooves.
Yeah,
he has to run
sideways.
to the right,
he
sideways.
knows the danger, Neville Wright, and he's immediately trying to run sideways.
And the question is, does it hit the
in.
guy in the left here? Is this Cameron Stones over here in the left?
No, he's in front of that back bunk.
Yeah, so he does, but is he altering himself? Look at him look down. Is he altering himself? Yeah. He knows, I bet you he knows the sled's out of the grooves there.
Because he can feel the handle.
He can feel the handles.
Odd.
So that near disaster for the Canadians, they fall 2 places.
Ooh. 6 sleds down of the final 20 in the 4-man race here in Innsbruck in Austria. Max Andrianov of our 3 Russian sleds is the 3rd best placed.
5:10 start, so better match that. That's what the Korean had at the bottom. 5:11 velocity, 49.7, same as Juan.
All of the sleds at this part of the field were separated by just a couple of hundredths of a second.
Close. Boy, he's already 5 back, though.
We talk about 500th of a second like it's minutes. It's the tiniest fraction of time imaginable.
5 to 5. So now you got to drive yourself down the rest of the track. 6. If he hits the wall here, it's going to be over. If he doesn't, boy, you can see a lot of ice chips already in that straightaway.
Speed not as good as we've seen, 63.9
He's bringing it back. He's coming back.
Top speed at the bottom, 78.8.
He's got him by 100.
Wow, 78.9 out of the final corner.
So you tell me 3 sleds there separated by 100.
Yep.
That's what this track is, though. Winterberg, all these short tracks. This is 1,220 meters. It's a short track. It sort of promotes 100th of a second racing, like we're seeing here. Although we saw a lot of 100ths of seconds last weekend in Königssee, which is a different type of a persona track in regards to how you drive down it compared to here. Look at the difference in speed, 0.4 of a kilometer. That's why Andrianov caught Juan and Bracker on the bottom. He had
in the finish corner.
In the finish
turn 14, he went from 100th behind to 100th in front. First of our 3 Latvian sleds is Igls Zalims in 13th place after the first of the 2 heats here in Innsbruck in Austria. 30-year-old was 17th in the 4-man World Championships. One previous World Cup race, he was 18th here, so his trajectory continues to improve in 2- and 4-man.
Good start, 7th best start. The first run, a little skid there, 5:06, 5.5 push bar just comes in. 6th best velocity with that start. With the best start, he's got the 6th best velocity. So they had a little skid coming out of the grooves there, and I think that cost him before he got to the 80-meter mark, where we measure that velocity. But he's got green numbers. And he's got a huge lead of 0.03 of a second.
This company, that's fast, but it's come down from 7 to -2. He's behind.
Not a bad flop out of 9, came pretty straight. Now down the labyrinth, this is where he gets close to 80 miles an hour. Boy, he's back to 1,300.
Really going away.
He could fall back 4 spots because remember, there are only 3 sleds separated by 100.
Does 5 spots he loses. That was the 7th fastest run, so only 2 sleds slower in the heat so far.
Well, I think his drift out of the start grooves might have cost him because he had the best start time. Now let's watch. See the start grooves? That's where the runners are in. Now they're out of the start grooves. Look at the sled coming to the left. So we saw that. Look, the sled's not coming straight. It's going left. And that's friction, and that causes you time. Great cohesion by the team, but maybe they ran one step too far because that sled definitely drifted out of the grooves.
Two Latvian sleds, cheek by jowl after the first heat, 12th and 13th. We've just seen Igls drop 5 spots. Can Oskar's Kibermanis produce a little bit better? He's 600s ahead of Yunjong, of Maxim Adrianov, our current leader.
Second best start in the first run.
Yeah, he was the fastest of the Latvian sleds at 5:01. Former Latvian driver Gatis Goots there, one of the officials watching the start.
And down, watch this efficiency. Number 2 waiting for those guys, 5:01 again, start speed, 50.6. Well, this is mission accomplished, but his problems were up here at the top of the track. All of a sudden, his velocity just didn't prove out to some good numbers. 2,400's there. I mean, look at the way the head snapped there.
That's corner 4 for you, isn't it? Little wriggle onto the straight down to the Kreisel. Still a quarter of a second up nearly.
Yeah, but he's lost time back. He should have had better velocity. He's going to bleed here, and he can't crush the wall here, and he does not.
Dropping out of Zalim's sled. Good run from 9 to 10. Will that keep it alive for Kibermanis? No, down to 2/10.
This is enough to get him into the lead.
Yes.
I don't know if it's going to get him to move up. Bang, 51.
Well, he was only 600s up, and he's now 1,800s up, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but in this track, that's a big improvement.
Well, there's 700s better in the second run.
Don't forget, won his first ever World Cup gold medal in the 4-man in St. Moritz just 2 races ago.
And he's the first guy to crack 79 miles an hour in the finish.
Yeah.
So, but he also has the best start time.
I wonder if the 3 Latvian sleds are all using the same kind of runner for this temperature of ice.
This is a nice line. Look at the difference. Oh boy, almost a kilometer.
Yep.
1.4 kilometers, that's a mile an hour.
Yep.
Better. And that's why he's got the 79 mile an hour speeds. That's why he's the leader.
Always pensive, Oskar's Kibermanis. Rudy Rinaldi at Monaco is starting to really make waves on a regular basis now. 13th and 15th on his 2 World Cup appearances this season. And as you can see, just 200ths of a second ahead of Kibermanis. 11th place after the first heat.
He started second behind Malbardis with that weird new draw that they have. The top 4 sleds from the back of the field get to go in the top draw.
Finished 13th in yesterday's 2-man race.
So he had a 5:12 in the first run. Let's see what the Monegasque can do. 5:10. Velocity, 49 and change. 4th, pretty good.
Bronze medalist in the Youth Olympic Games on this track in 2012. He's never driven 4-man before this season.
1000s back. That's not a good sign. But that's relative to the start. You get clobbered at the start by 900s. And he went, remember, he went early. That's pretty good there. 500s back from 10 to 5.
3rd ever 4-man World Cup race. It's hard to underestimate or overstate how little experience he's got in a 4-man.
This will be a big celebration. He gets to the bottom here in the lead. 600s, I don't know. It's real close.
Well, this might be second behind Kibermanis, but it'll still be a top 12 result. 500s behind Kibermanis, who's already been a winner in 4-man in World Cup in the last month.
Boy, this Rudy Rinaldi has made some great progress this year.
His brakeman at 2 there was Boris Van, was already undoing his helmet straps. They're still in the braking stretch.
900s down on the start, 1800s over 2 heats. He only lost by 5 at the bottom. Rudy Rinaldi has arrived. Start efficiency, okay? You might not be able to outstart everybody, but get in, get down, power step into the sled. And you don't want to pull the sled back when you get in.
Don't forget, this is their first year together, this foursome. Boris Van's his 2-man brakeman at 2.
Nice
this is only their 3rd World Cup race together. And our leader, Oskar's Kibermanis, has won the last 4 seasons, or 3 seasons on this track, with exactly the same 4 guys. Oscar's Melbardis rather. Oscar's Kibermanis leads by 500ths from Rudy Rinaldi. That's your 1-2 halfway through the second heat. One of the other aspects of Rudy Rinaldi and his crew, you saw a coach there running up at the bottom, holding up 2 fingers, and the brakeman was going, because they lost a place. Didn't matter how few hundreds there were. That's the determination. They're not just going, okay, we'll make up the numbers, we're happy to be here. They want to do better every single time. Kibermanis on the right-hand side and his crew stay in the leader's box. Not much need to wrap up warm here. It's fairly mild, still hovering around 0, 1, 2 degrees. And there's a little hint of blue sky in the distance. I mean, the good news for us is there's no sun on the track today as there was yesterday morning in the 2-man.
Shades.
Because it might be a bit of a whitewater rafting
Jimmy Reed's mom, I think, there.
Yeah, a few American families and friends. We Lake Placid are these shots from Placid, and a lot of Old Glory around the track.
Beautiful place to come watch a race, though.
Really
Get
is.
so close.
Doesn't hurt being close to a beautiful city like Innsbruck either. And lots of young fans out on the track as well. Some of them not an awful lot younger than some of the drivers in this field. Brescia, the Swiss, Rudy Rinaldi.
Yeah, Rinaldi's 22.
The young Italian. Yeah. So
the guy leading the race is 22 years old. Kibermanis.
Yeah.
Benny Mayer, 23.
Yeah, exactly. No,
challenging for a medal today.
Get him young, start him young. That's about the right age. He could be 4 years into his luge career here by the age he is.
Age is 7. They've already got 4 years in. There's our Latvian friends.
Latvian ribbon being dangled off the balcony beside us into our leaders box.
They won the World Cup in St. Moritz 2 weeks ago today. His first ever gold medal. Pretty good accomplishment for this young 22-year-old phenom.
Your race leader on the right-hand side, Oscar Kibermanis and his crew for Latvia. 10 down, 10 to go. The 4th World Cup race, beg your pardon, the final World Cup race in Europe. 7th of the season for the 4-man bobsleigh. Into the top 10, the 2nd of our sleds from the Czech Republic. Both made the cut today. Jan Verber in the 10. And on target, potentially, for his best ever 4-man result on this track.
He's got a top 5 finish in Altenburg a few years ago. 5:08 start, not bad. 4th velocity, 49.7. Jan, though, was the 3rd guy down. You know, so he had a lot of good track to work with.
12th in the World Cup 2 seasons ago was his best ever 4-man result here.
Pulling out a boop at curve 5 by the team. 11 to 11. Might catch him on the bottom with some great lines.
Top 2 are covered by just 500ths of a second, so the chances are you'll beat them both or lose to them both. 1400ths, he's in 3rd on the splits.
Oh, he's going to fall back at least 2 spots here.
Down to
Rinaldi
4th
was only
place on the
5,
splits.
big skid out of 13.
And across the line, he loses
time.
6 places, so he doesn't match his career best.
Yeah, he went early. He had a big advantage. That time had a decent start, 4th best start so far, and he could only manage the 8th or 9th best time in the run.
3rd out of the start shed in the first heat. That was a long while ago.
Boy, the driver he ran a long ways there.
Yeah.
And look at the push bar hit. I think the push bar hit there.
Just pushed it back into place, but
Yeah.
every fraction of a second of lost momentum.
Bang. That's not too bad. That was the front and back bunk. And look, watch the back end of the sled skid here at 80 miles, 79 miles an hour. Look at that. Whoa.
So backing it into 12. Well, that makes 12, 13, 14, a real haul on the ropes nightmare. Talking about young drivers, here's another one. Benny Mayer of Austria, bronze medal in the 2-man yesterday. What a huge race it was for him. Nevertheless, he went straight home to bed, suffering with a shocking cold and feeling like the last thing he wants to do is strip down to his lycra suit and go out in the cold. 5th in the World Championships last year, silver in the Youth Olympic Games 2012 in the boys bobsleigh.
He's one of the young guns we talk about, and I mentioned it yesterday in the 2-man broadcast. He's one of the guys that takes apart the sled, puts it back together himself. adds different parts with it. His father assists him. But, you know, I think that's a lost art in bobsledding. I don't think enough of the drivers have enough feel for their sleds because they have so many new mechanics on tour.
Well, and the other thing, of course, is they don't have the time so much nowadays, because in the olden days, where you'd be fixing the sled, now they're in the gym fixing the body.
Yeah, 5 to 7. He's going to have to find the Austrian shortcut. That's not it.
And that ain't it. And look at the ice he left behind him. Huge amount of lost energy. He's going to lose maybe half a dozen places.
Yeah, this is not Benny's day. Yesterday, though, get out of here on his home track with a bronze medal. Today, 10th best time of the run. Maybe this track is falling apart, because that's surprising.
6 spots. From
5th.
9th in the first heat, he'll go down to around 15th position. Still comfortably better than any World Cup result he's had here, but he was 5th in last year's World Championships in the 4-man.
Well, this is 8-9, and watch the sled as it exit 9. He climbs, he's low, climbs on the end. It'll show it here. Sled will come up high in the end, and he has to drive it off into the right-hand wall. Watch the spray come up. Bang, not a lot. Look at that big ice chips there.
Sheet of ice.
And that's someone else is going to run over.
Yeah. Catching Bile and her crew helping with the sleds down at the bottom. They raced in yesterday's women's competition. Only 2 German sleds actually started this race, because Johannes Lochner, winner of 3 of the last 4 events, was disqualified. His runners were too warm, so we had just 2 sleds left. Francesco Friedrich here won the 2-man race yesterday.
And he was silver medalist last year in the World Championships on this track, was the leader at the end of 3 heats, only to make a mistake in curve 9 and fall to Mobardis, or else he would have been a double world champion, something he has not achieved yet. He's won 3 world championships in the 2-man in a row.
Silver medal in the last 2 races on this track in 4-man.
Start, well, best start, 5 flat. Skid there out of 6, 7. 1800s, well, can't make any mistakes at 1800s. He's talking about moving up, trying to capture a medal here, and that's as good as it gets.
Through the ice field, exiting corner 9.
Coming back, though. Doesn't have the
1600s, gaps dropping. Is there still speed in the track? He comes across the line, 51.09.
100th better. There's Rennie Spiess. Look at that. There's no positive emotion there with those 2 German coaches.
All right, he was 10th of 31 sleds. He's now 12th. So 31 plus 12, 43 sleds. 33 have come down since his first heat, and he was only 100th faster. So the track actually is kind of holding up.
Well, start, okay, you want to look at this. Look at Kibermanis, the difference. Friedrich was a 1/10 of a kilometer better getting in the sled.
A tenth of a second from 0 to 30. So that's,
10th of a second.
Acceleration.
Look at the efficiency, how they got in that sled, too.
Yeah, it's not how quickly you leave the line, it's how quickly you leave the line and how much energy you keep in the sled. Friedrich leads. 7 to go in the final European 4-man race of the season. Korea comes up mid-March, the last race of the year. And between now and then, the World Championships starting in a fortnight. Nico Walther looking for a little bit of 4-man redemption. 1 silver medal rather in Winterberg, 1 silver medal in Koenigsee in the last 3 weeks are his only podium trips this year in the 4-man.
He's got Christoph Weber, a new guy that went with him in the 2-man yesterday, and the 6'7" Marco Hupenbecker.
Can you figure out who's on the brakes at the back there? Eric Franke, as ever, at the back of the 4-man sled.
Look at the 6'7" guy get in, wait for number to get everybody to get in, get down. 5:05, 200's better. Velocity, not bad, 50.3. They'll take that.
Earlier in the week, this might be his last weekend on ice. May not end up going to the World Championships. 400's behind Francesco Friedrich.
That's relation to the start. Now, if he keeps it at 4, 5, 600s here, he's got a chance 7. It's not bad, but Friedrich gave away a little bit on the bottom to the Latvian sled. 9. Ooh.
Friedrich's had 2 bronze medals in 4-man. Nico has had 2 silvers. And again, John, one of your races within a race between the 2 Germans.
Oh, is he really late there? He's coming back, though. He didn't steer. He's coming back.
Is that what he's doing? dives out of the final corner.
Oh, not enough. Ran out of
behind.
track. Ran out of track. Boy, that's, you know, it takes a lot to say, I'm just not going to steer down there in those labyrinths.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just you. You're not just being brave with your own safety. You're being brave with the 3 guys behind you. And there's a lot of drivers take that responsibility enormously seriously.
Well, this is out of 10. Into the first labyrinth. Watch the sled. He's just airborne here in the exit. He's not steering. Oh, the back end. And then he comes late into there. He had a better steering there than he did in the first run. Remember, he really squared things up there in the first run, but he's not happy with that.
All right, boys, here we go. Here we go, fellas.
6 to go in the 4-man race in Innsbruck in Austria, race 7 of the BMW IBSF World Cup. Coach Graham Richardson cleaning the final specks of ice off Justin Kripp's sled. Kripp's in 5th position yesterday in the 2-man race. If he could get in amongst the medals here, and there is a good chance that would turn his season around. 1600s cover the top 6 after the first heat. There is your current leader, second left, Francesco Friedrich. So can Krips beat the German down the track? Can he pick up the few hundreds he needs to get into the medals?
Kopax, Lumsden, and Coquell. Pretty good start in the first run. They had an 06, which was the 7th best. Look how quickly they get in, get down. Nice. No, 09 though. 14th best velocity. That's not what they did in the first run.
They were 600ths of a second out of the medals in 6th position.
13. Well, if it gets out to 15 or 17, he's going to have some real issues here at the bottom.
Long skid into the Kreisel. A mile an hour too slow. Never mind your kilometers.
Well, he had a good result in the 2-man yesterday. Took him off the snide, but he's going to have to find the perfect line down here, but there's no speed.
Not going to be a top 6 run. He's going to sink to the bottom of the top 10.
He's coming back a little bit, though.
Germany are going to go 1-2, and Justin Krips at the line.
Out of track.
3rd place.
Just ran out of track.
600ths. He needed to gain 6. He lost 6.
Still, there's some positive that the Canadian team could take out of here this weekend.
That was 1700ths of a second slower than his first heat.
Yeah, their start time and their velocity fell off. You know,
Well,
09.
300 slower at the start, should be 1800 slower at the bottom, and that pretty much worked out the way it was.
Yeah, he's 600s back. That extra 300s they lost at the start, that was the 900s that would have had him top of the leaderboard. Down here on the bottom, look at the speed on the bottom.
Yeah.
0.3 of a kilometer better than Friedrich was.
Worse
Doesn't
than
sound
Friedrich
like
was.
much, but when you're dealing with hundreds of seconds, 79-mile-an-hour speeds.
Germany 1-2. Francesco Friedrich leads Nico Walther. 15 sleds down, 5 to come. Justin Krips in 3rd place. Fifth after the first heat. 400s out of the medals. Alexander crashing off, and disaster for the Russians.
World Cup leader.
Alexei Zaitsev, who was bumped in the hip in the near crash at the end of their first run, struggles to get in.
Velocity, we'll see how much that was affected. He's 8 down. He flew the bottom part of the track in the first heat, but he also went early. He went 7th, 13th. Now we're talking about him falling back 3 or 4 places and maybe lose the World Cup lead. He can't use it because
Lochner's been disqualified. Rico Peter is way out of contention. Or is he? Rico Peter can't possibly pick up enough points, but
he's going to fall 4 places here.
Yep, he could drop 6 spots by the line. He's down in 5th on the split.
10th best time of the run. Now the Germans are in the medal position. Oh, man.
Whoa, 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 whoa. And Tad,
let's see what they say
no
themselves
injury
here.
in the finish line. Well, it happens. Yeah, there's Alexei Zaitsev. He's absolutely livid. It happens. You just wish it wouldn't happen when you're so close to the medals.
This is a very good starting team. very good efficiency. But you do this 1,000 times. Look at that. He just didn't get his foot on the bunk. Now, just to have him recover, you know what kind of athleticism it takes?
His ankle is hanging onto the sled and doesn't get in. And now he's trying to mount a galloping horse.
Now his other number 3 guy can't get in.
Can't help him because he's not even in.
Now watch the athleticism it takes for him to pull himself up and in still. I've been in that position before. I've fallen out of the sled like that before. It's such a, what a feeling it is. But just to recover. Yeah. If he didn't get in the sled, he would not be the World Cup leader at the end of this race.
Right. Yeah, they'd have been disqualified. Well, Alexei Zaitsev, what a shame for him and shame for Kazyanov. Russia still have another feather to their bow. It is Alexei Stulnev. Late change here. Maxim Belugin, we saw with what looked like a broken nose after their crash at the end of the first heat. He's been replaced by Kirill Antuk.
Not a bad replacement.
Yeah.
Stood down. This guy's 3rd in World Cup points. The guy comes off the bench, 5:08 in the first run. They bring a guy in, 5:08 in the second run. Russians are deep in the field with athletes, that is for sure.
Francesco Friedrich, Nico Walther 1-2 at the moment, and the Russian sled is in the red already.
And Stulnev won his first ever World Cup medal last weekend in Koenigsegg. And he's going to have to find a fast line here at the bottom, or he's going to drop behind the German sleds also.
Stulnev lies 3rd in World Cup points in 2-man and 4th in World Cup points in 4-man. Is he having a season? We say it every week. He is having a season.
Down to 6, he's coming down. This could be right to the 100th. He's got good speed.
500 separate 1st and 2nd. Where will he be? In 2nd place. Friedrich climbs another spot.
Remember, Friedrich was a silver medalist last year in the World Championship, so...
Another top 6 finish for Alexei Stulnev.
And he crashed in the first heat after the finish line, upside down. That's why the brakeman had to be replaced.
Yeah, props to the team for getting in.
Look at the gouge in the sled there on the left. That could be the result of that.
And they ran all the way up there.
Upside down.
Right up
Look at him get out. Look at his back.
Yeah,
so I think that crash in the first heat affected them. But give them credit, they had the same start time in the second run.
Epic.
Yeah, so the speed's in the bottom. He needed another 50 meters of track here.
Big skid. And that skid alone was just enough to deny him.
300s.
Squirrely in the lower labyrinth. Yeah. Time to decide the medals. 3 sleds remain. Francesco Friedrich, silver medalist in the last 2 seasons in 4-man on this track in World Cup and World Championship, is our leader. Rico Peter took the bronze last year in the Worlds behind Friedrich and his team.
Friedrich's team had the best start in the competition.
And
the second run.
Fastest run so far.
And he's going to need another 5:05 like they had the first run, a chance. Very good cohesion in the sled, down 5:05. Same as the first heat, but the 13th best speed at the start. So maybe we didn't see something there.
Turned into mush.
That's green numbers. Let's see if he can keep it. 200s.
He was 12 hundredths ahead of Francesco Friedrich, and will he be in the red? 100th at the Kreisel.
But he had one of the best lines out of curve 8 and 9 as anybody in the first run. Let's see if he can do it again. He's got 200s.
Drifting.
Drift a little bit.
100th, 200th. This is going to be a
he tapped there again.
The line.
900, but he's flying. The reckless drivers.
Is he going to put himself in the medals? Big skid in the finish corner. He leads. 51.08, 100th of a second on this run, faster than Francesco Friedrich. The Swiss lead, they are in the medals again.
And that's going to move him up at least into second in World Cup standings. So Rico, look at his bad back. He's going to the doctor tomorrow, as you said in the first run. He's hurt too.
Stulnev is as well, Kazyanov is as well. There's a lot of injured soldiers in this race.
Going into the World Championships, look at on the bottom. Look at the speed on the bottom. Friedrich had better speed, barely, by 1/10 of a kilometer. But Rico Peter had some nice magical lines up and around Kreisel. And he had enough time in the bank. He gave back a few hundredths on the bottom, but
not enough to save Friedrich. So Rico Peter leads, 2 to go. What a day we are having in Innsbruck in Austria. In January 2007, Stephen Holcomb, Pavle Jovanovic Steve Messler and Brock Kreitzberg won here. That was the last win for the Americans on this track in four-man.
Carlo Valdez, Jim Reed, Sam McGuffey. Start was great, 5:07 first run. Holcomb with a start is as lethal as any driver in the field. 5:07 again, the velocity, third.
These guys are starting to look really well drilled at this end of the season now.
Holcomb started 11th in the field. Didn't have a great start number, but it's +2. That's relative to the better start time that the Germans had at that point. +3.
He was the sled immediately before Francesco Friedrich on the ice and came down nearly a quarter of a second faster.
There's a
than the
good
German.
sign. Needs to be straight. He crushed the wall here in the first heat. He did not. +3 to +3. He's holding. Now he's got to find the fast line that Rico Peter had. He's losing it back by 100.
Yep, half a mile an hour behind on speed. It's
Still
going
a
to be
chance
very
for a
close
medal.
at the line.
Oh,
100th of a second.
second week in a row.
100th of a second.
Holcomb tied to a silver medal last week in the two-man. Lost the medal by 100th of a second in the four-man. Loses a silver medal at least here today. And he's got at least a medal, though.
Not necessarily loses a silver. He's in second. There's only one to come.
Little drift here. Look at all this shrapnel
That's
down
a
on the
debris field there, isn't it?
down on the bottom. He was bringing it back, 300ths to 100th. Look at the back end of the sled here. Does it get airborne? A little bit. Looks like the perfect line, but Holcomb gets a start. He's as good as anybody on the planet.
In the medals again, Stephen Holcomb.
They're disappointed.
Justin Olsen missed out on a second heat by 100th. He missed out on a medal yesterday by 2. Holcomb is in the silver medal. Our leader is Rico Peter. So, will last year's world champion, the man who's won four-man on this track for the last 3 straight years, go for the 4th in a row? There's Rico Peter on the left and his team. They lead Oskars Melbardis, Damas Dreskens, Arvisfield Caster, Yannis Stranger. These 4 men have been unbeatable for the last 3 seasons on this track.
But they were the first people down in the competition. They had a big start draw advantage. 5:02. That's even better than their first run. 7th best velocity, though. You know, Melbardis has got a bad back. Coming off surgery in July. He's still about 85%.
His bad back is getting better. Everybody else's good backs are getting worse.
Again, the world champion last year. Latvian's first ever world championship last year on this track. Silver medalist also at the Olympic Games.
Gap's coming down.
Sochi.
A mile an hour slower than top speed into the Kreisel. 63.9 here to 64.6. Gap will come down again.
Wow, this is going to get interesting here.
A 10th ahead of
Watch
Rico
out,
Peter in the first heat. Is down to 700. It's a little wild. It's going to be very close. Melbardis or Rico Peter. 500. It's 4 in a row for Oskars Melbardis.
Yeah.
His first win back from injury.
Doesn't matter where they put that sled up there now. Well, he just showed everybody that the first run draw, okay. Look at this,
oh, jump out.
Ooh.
And that's why you got to keep the sled on the brakes.
That just crushed the sled. That just crushed that sled. Oh, look what it did to the inside of that sled.
It's full of ice snow anyway from the brakes.
It's an Austrian.
Yeah, he's the track worker who drives the tractor. Oscar's on the left there going,
That
okay,
was so
guys,
dangerous. Calm down, everybody. I've never seen
straight
this.
up the tunnel there to help. But
I have never seen a win and have some kind of... Sleds aren't made to get hit from behind.
There in the back jacket is Marcus Pence. He's the head of operations here, former skeleton slider.
Rico Peter's in second.
Silver medal. And Stephen Holcomb in the medals again, bronze medal. There's your race winner. Thomas Dreskens beside. I tell you what, this is not a crew that the track worker wants to start a fight with.
No, all 4 of them average about 230 pounds, including the drivers, 245, in, down. Great efficiency at the start, and he drove as good as you could do. Lost time on the bottom, but the Latvian sleds have been losing time on the bottom. Rico Peter, the reckless driver, probably had the best time of the second run. I think he must have had the best time in the second run.
Yeah, 51.08. Theirs was a 51.13.
Look at this, and look at this. Whoa, whoa. Dangerous, dangerous pictures there for our winners.
So high drama from start to finish. What a weekend, what a race to round it out. Oskars Melbardis, first win of the season, his 4th straight on this track. Rico Peter, 500s behind Stephen Holcomb in the bronze medal, 600s behind. Francesco Friedrich came from, 8th to 4th position, ahead of Alexei Stulnev and Nico Walther. And what difference will that make? Well, Alexander Kasyanov, the World Cup points leader, only in 9th place. Closest rival, Johannes Lochner, disqualified. Peter will close at least into 2nd. And it finished with drama and heart-in-the-mouth moment as somehow the Latvians let the sled off the brakes on that steep incline.
Well, easy track, Innsbruck. Tough to stop the sleds. We saw a lot of action down there.
Jimmy Reed offering his congratulations. And Carla, I'm not sure where Carla's going to end up with this. It started as a Zapata moustache, it's kind of morphed into a bit of a beard, and there are the Germans offering their congratulations to our Latvian winners. Well, Melbardis is never an easy man to beat in 2 or 4 man. Rico Peter and Oskars Melbardis, great competition between them. Melbardis came in here, where was he in the World Cup points? Just 15th position with only 500 points. He gets another 225 for that win, so he'll go flying up the order. And Yannis Strenger there.
Rico Peter,
yeah.
Best time of the 2nd run. Or maybe not, I don't know.
Yeah, 51.08, I think it was. 51.09 from Francesco Friedrich. That's what threw him up the order. And Holcomb's 3rd or 4th fastest run. So 3rd fastest start and 5th fastest down for Oskars Melbardis, but he had enough in hand to beat Rico Peter.
Hundreds of seconds. Look at the leaderboard.
It's
top
insane.
3 sleds, 600s.
Well, 1/4 of a second still takes us down the top 7 to Justin Cripps.
But yesterday, Friedrich won by 3/4 of a second in the 2-man. 2nd to 12 was separated by like 20 hundredths.
Yeah, he won by 27, didn't he?
Lapped the field.
And 2nd to 19th was another 27 hundredths.
Yeah. No, he won by 7,500.
7,500s, you're right, yes.
He lapped the field.
Yeah. He probably was on a different planet. Francesco Friedrich just out of the medals in the 4-man competition today. Confirmation, our World Cup points. Alexander Kasyanov still leads, but look at that. Rico Peter, less than or just over a dozen points behind him. Holcomb in 3rd place, and Alexei Stulnev in 4th. Francesco Friedrich in 5th position. Johannes Lochner plummets from 2nd to 7th. He did not score, and Benny Meyer was that 1 point behind him. Oskars Melbardis picks up a hat full of points, only moves up 1 spot at the expense of Cody Basque.
One more World Cup race in Pyeongchang, Korea, the pre-Olympic test. It'll be the final World Cup, going to be very interesting across the board in all of 5 disciplines.
Ain't it, though? Isn't it going to be? Well, listen, we've had tracks that we know where it's been insane so far all season long. When we get to Korea, who knows? And what are we going to find in 2 weeks? What about Yoon Jung-won? What about Kim's already gone, I think, hasn't he? And one we heard was going to do maybe the 2-man race here and go home. Maybe he's going to do the Worlds. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But
our world champion from last year, who had surgery over the summer on his back, well, coming out party for him right now in 2017. He returns to the scene of the Latvians' first ever World Championships, and he wins for the 4th consecutive time on this track. Barely.
Yep. 4 for 4. Francesco Friedrich went 3 for 3 yesterday in the 2-man. There's your podium, Holcomb and his boys. Do you know what? In the last 3 weeks, they've looked like medal contenders in 2-man and 4-man every single time out. They take the 3rd position. Rico Peter, and again, from the start of the season, has been in contention in 2-man and 4-man, and that continues. Lots of American support there. Kurzhosen going on there with our Austrian officials. And the Latvians claiming victory for the first time this year. It's Oskars Melbardis. Oskars Kibermanis took his first 4-man win just 2 weeks ago. Only Ugis Alams has yet to claim a gold medal from the Latvian trio. Marcus Pence hands out the remainder of the flowers and the champagne. There is your podium. Last European World Cup of the season, a week of rest before training begins for the World Championships. And Rico Peter's crew get a head start with the champagne. That's it then from Innsbruck in Austria. Join us in 2 weeks' time as we start our World Championships in Koenigsegg, Bavaria. Until then, for John Morgan and the rest of the IBS TV crew, I'm Martin Haven saying thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time out. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye for now.